Hello and welcome to a Digital Diamond Baseball video tutorial. And in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a new library. And it's going to be a fictional library of fictional players that are generated from a library that already exists on my system. If you look here, I have a couple of season libraries already installed. And I've created a new library called Fictional. The first thing I have to do is add my teams. And to keep things simple here, I'm just going to create 4-team division. Obviously, this could be a lot more interesting and complicated, but we don't want the video to take forever. So let's just make a couple teams here. Team 2, Team 3, and one more, Team 4. Okay. Now that we've got our teams created, let's hop on over to the organization and set that up. I only want one league, and I don't like the DH, so let's just use the NL. And I only need one division as well. So one league, one division, and now we can add our teams to that division, and we're all set. Now we just need some players, and we want them to be fictional. So we're going to go to the player editor, which is your home base for actually creating or generating and importing players. And we're going to choose to generate players from another library. So we're going to choose the 1974 library. And see, we have 4 teams, so we want to get some starters out of that. We can make random names if we want. If I didn't check this, the players would come over as is. But I'm going to use random names, so it's a fictional library. And with 4 teams, well, why don't we give them a choice of 80 starting pitchers. We're going to do a draft to populate these teams. And they should have played at least a minimum of, let's say, these are game starts, a minimum of 5 game starts. And these players can be as old as 40, why not? So we hit generate, and we now have 80 teams in the free agent team, 80 players, 80 starters on the free agent team. Now we'll grab some relievers, and 80 should be enough for relievers as well. And let's get some relievers that have at least 10 games and generate those. Got it. Now we'll get some catchers. 4 teams. Let's go with 12 catchers that have played at least half a season. Generate. And we'll do the same for first baseman and second baseman, shortstop, third, left, center, right, and we don't need any DHs because this is not a DH league, so we should be all set. Now, if we take a look at our free agents now, our free agent team, you can see we've got a whole bunch of players here that we can use to draft our 4 teams. And notice these names are make-believe. The names are generated randomly by mixing and matching names that already exist in the library. Okay, now that we have a fictional library, let's go on over to the draft, and we will draft our teams. So we'll create a new draft. We don't need to combine duplicate records. There aren't any. We don't need to release players because they're already on the free agent. And they should all be activated. But just in case, let's do that. So we now have our draft pool. Let's do 40 rounds. Should be enough, I think. We'll snake the draft order. And let's just do the entire draft. Okay. At this point, we should have 4 teams with full rosters. Let's grab one of our teams and take a look at the roster. There you go. These are your starters, relievers. We got pitchers at catcher, first, second, third, short, and in the outfield. And these players, actually, we got some DHs by virtue of drafting other positions. So we now have 4 teams in a division, and these teams consist of randomly generated players, but we know that they have accurate statistics, right? Because they came from real life players, but the names are changed, so we don't know who they are. Ken Necro sounds a little familiar, has nothing to do with Phil Necro. The name just happened to be plopped in there. Okay, now that we have our library full of teams and players, we need to create a schedule. So we're going to go to the schedule editor and click on generate. And no games can be scheduled unless all divisions in the organization have an even number of teams. Well, our organization does have that. And each division in the organization has to have the same number of teams. We only have one division, so we're set there. And we're not going to do interleague games. We only have one league. So we should be able to use the generator here. Let's start our season on 4-1. And let's play, there's only intra-division. So let's play 30. Too many, 25, 27. What I'm doing is I'm trying to get to 162 games, or as close as I possibly can. And it looks like 27 inter-division series gives me 162 games. We don't have other divisions and we don't have other leagues, so we're just going to create our schedule with that. And let's add an all-star break. And we've got ourselves a schedule. The last step before we can play ball is to take care of our manager profiles. I'm going to reset these to their default to make sure that they are set to default to begin with. Then I'm going to go on over to my options and take a look at my playing time limits. I would like the playing time limits to be enforced, and what this means is that players won't, well, the computer manager will try not to play players more than they played in real life. It'll try to do that. And the algorithm that I'm going to use is distributed. There's two, greedy versus distributed. Distributed will try to distribute the playing time across the entire season rather than greedily using up playing time early and then maybe running out and having a player sit on the bench for the rest of the season. Because there's no transactions in this library, there's no reason to be really greedy about things. If there were transactions, you'd want your player to get used before they got traded or disabled. But in this library, there aren't any transactions, so we can have them be spread out very nice and evenly across the season. If you have a player that only has 100 at-bats, the usage would be spread out across the season instead of used very quickly. So that's what we wanted, and it's okay, and we'll leave the usage limits turned on. Another thing I'm going to do here, but you wouldn't have to, but I'd like to show the feature, is I'm going to do injuries. I'm going to make injuries happen sometimes in my library with a max of 10 games missed, and I'm going to set it to no more than one injury per team at any given time. This is injuries at a given time. So we'll turn injuries on as well, just for fun. All right, we are all set. We can now play ball and have a lot of fun with our fictional season.